is part 2 of our 2-part episode with Coach J.R. Crisologo of Lion's Head Boxing Academy, Bangkok. Let's go a bit back. How
Right.
did you learn your boxing style? I understand it's like Cuban style boxing, right?
Well, Cuban style in a let's just say in a surface, they're very well known for the style that we're talking about is the very evasive in and out, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of angles, a lot of footwork, very stick and move type of style.
Yeah.
That's a very, very known style for
It's
Cuban
probably one
boxing.
of the most technical styles in boxing, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like I would agree, but like that's I would say my foundation because that was the style that I was taught. So naturally, I pass it on to my fighters. But every sport evolves fast, so you have to make sure that even though we got that style, my fighters are known for that in the local scene. At the same time, if we have to switch up styles, then we can still do it. Like I don't like having just one style for my fighters. Like although I don't take away what they originally have, I always try to work around it. But as far as like innovating, I'm just trying to add something more to the artillery, pretty much.
So, pretty much starting from Cuban style, then just integrating your own stuff in it, and now you're here. I think even here in the Philippines, I've never really heard any gyms actually using that style. I mean, if we see it in the Olympics, and even in the amateur boxing, the Cubans are beasts.
Oh, yeah, well, that's simply because we have our own style. I believe Filipino. I mean, you have your Mexican style boxing, you have your Midwest American style boxing, you have your Filipino boxing, you have everybody. I think has their own style of doing things. Like it's funny now. It's like telling a race apart from each other. Not everybody who's brown skin is Filipino.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Not every Caucasian dude is American. So it's the same with the boxers. Like whenever I watch boxing and I haven't seen the name, I'm like, his style is kind of like familiar to like, this, that, and the third. So I would make a wild guess. And like, I've been pretty precise, like especially lately, where they're from. Because like Mexican boxers, like we know them as these, like, I will stand in front of you and I will trade until the round is done. Right? So Cuban boxers are more like, okay, stick and move, get out. Angles. Yeah. For me, I think Filipino boxing is almost like Mexican boxing, but we actually have more footwork. We have that style of like bouncing around, so that's how I would differentiate Mexican boxing and Filipino boxing in a sense. But as far as trading is concerned, man, like I love seeing a Filipino versus a Mexican like fight.
Yeah, that's a war when it's a Filipino versus a Mexican.
Oh hell yeah, man! Like one of my favorite matchups of all time.
What do you think needs to improve in the Filipino style of boxing now? Because personally, with what I've seen so far, for some reason, there's been a decline in the success of the Filipino boxers abroad. Not as much as before.
Yeah, JR, like, has it evolved at all, do you think?
Yes and no. Yes, because I've seen it, right? No, because they get put up as in mismatches that they can't use that progress. Let me share you something that one of my worst experience when it comes to boxing politics. But I mean, and this has to do with like regardless of what style you are, right? Obviously not naming any names, but I remember coaching or being a cornerman of a person who fought for the PABA, right, in Thailand. And we was up against one of the biggest boxing promotions in Bangkok. Once again, we're going to leave those names like, unsaid, right? And this was a 10-rounder, and the guy that I was coaching, he was beating this Thai guy to a pulp. This Thai guy was supposed to be the next superstar, and he gave him first 4 rounds of hell, 5 rounds of hell. So I was like, okay, I was confident. Like we're 5 rounds in, he's about to go down 2 rounds max. My fighter sits down, and there was a guy that went to the referee. They were saying they were whispering and whatnot. And next thing you know, the referee comes over to us and he waved us off. I was like, what's going on? Like, oh, you're done. So my younger confrontational version, my first thing was like, I was about to fucking throw a fit. I was like, the fuck y'all talking about? My fighter lost. You see the other guy's face, this and that, this and I was going to say that. The referee grabs him by the arm and he says in Thai, don't talk, Take your fighter out, get your money, and be safe.
Shoot.
Wow.
When you get told something like that, there's only two things that could happen in your head. Either you take heed of a very, very sound advice, or you choose to become the temperamental you and probably end up in 6 pieces before you get out of the stadium.
Yeah, or in a coffin.
Or in a coffin. I will tell you guys something. If we think there's politics in boxing in Manila or whatever, they have a different type of politics over here because it involves the local, like, mafia, if I would say. It's not a secret. If you go to a boxing match, right, a Muay Thai, whatever the case may be, big boxing matches, they have this one stage where there's a couch, and sitting on those couches are the most decorated army officials.
The military.
The military and the police. All the most decorated, high-level like officials. You're thinking to yourself, they're not just fans. Why is the military here?
Yeah, you'll be...
But you don't ask those questions, unfortunately.
It's the gambling, right?
Yep. I mean, the control and all that kind of stuff. So that's my first real exposure into the world of like dirty politics in Thailand, as far as like, boxing is concerned. Muay Thai is even worse.
Muay Thai is even worse. How did you like navigate that early challenge, bro?
I shut my mouth.
Very smart.
Very smart move.
A man who has watched his share of The Wire.
I'll tell you something, right? I believe in life. Like, once again, I'm a very confrontational person when I was younger, but you need to know which battles you will fight. Yeah. It's not about there's the whole the morale of it, the being correct factor and all these type of stuff, but then you have to know your environment at the same time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like the pecking order, right?
One of the biggest lessons I've had to learn in Thailand is that you need to know, because Thais are they're not loud people. They just make things happen. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are very, very soft-spoken, and they give you that look like, okay, you fucking up, so you better shut the fuck up now.
They have a look.
Yeah, man. And after being here for about 21 years, you learn that the hard way. So I'm like, okay, I know when to shut up and I know when to not, which is the same reason why all these years of shutting up has actually put me in the position that when somebody calls my stable for a fight, I get to be on the A side of things, because I have made the proper connections and so-called friends in the industry that will allow me to do that.
Yeah,
I'm not talking to nobody, but over here it's not about what you know; it's about who you know. That's the cold game of how it is in Thailand.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah,
it is what it is. I don't care if you're fucking Elon Musk or whatever the case may be. If you don't get yourself a foot in the door of a Thai business circle, nobody gonna scratch your back. I guarantee you that.
It's really just not easy to.
No, but at least I like it better than most other organizations that I've actually seen, because at least here, when they actually tell you they're gonna look after you, they're gonna look after you. Like, to the point that if you get like I said, over the years I've made my connections. So literally, if I get stopped at a checkpoint, I make that one phone call and then that's it. So it's that kind of like scene over here. It doesn't matter if it's like politics or getting busted with whatever, with paraphernalia, drugs, crime. Like, it's a sad thing, but connections work.
Yeah, for sure. Connections do work. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's one main reason why your gym is still kept afloat?
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. And going back to what you said earlier about the whole, has the Filipino boxing progressed? I think they have, but they're just not. I mean, apart from what I said earlier, I also think that they're just not getting the support that they need as far as like fucking proper nutrition is concerned. I mean, come on, man. This is like time immemorial kind of like story. We've had so many boxers out there who's displayed skills, but they're eating fucking hopia and V-cut for merienda.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's the cold fucking sad truth.
Yeah.
These guys hardly got any fucking vegetables inside them. bro. This is why I wrote that letter. You see, because I'm so tired and sick and tired of seeing our kababayans coming over here, and they're asking them for fucking 12 rounds of sparring, give them like 150 baht for the entire thing, and then when it's time to feed them, they fucking give them rice and nothing else.
Yeah. And here, they're part of their, I think, diet plan is just eating sweet potatoes and water.
Kamote and vikat.
Yeah, that's it, man. Hey, that vikat got that sodium though, so they keep all that water. They don't get dehydrated and shit.
Like no amount of vikat is going to replace all the protein shake, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's the creatine right there. That's the water retention right there.
But do you think that your current style, the style that you've developed, if you bring that home here, how much do you think it can help the Filipino boxing scene? I mean, there are a lot of coaches here, but your style could be something for them.
Right. I've thought about this over and over again, and I would love to actually do that. But Filipinos in general has this thing that they're not so open to something new, especially if they're very comfortable already with what they're doing in the first place. Am I mistaken on that, or is that
You're actually not the first person who said that. So yes, I definitely agree on that.
Right. It's not just because
very, very accurate.
I'm not talking from the surface. I'm talking from experience. When I was talking to some of the coaches when I did the workshop.
Yeah, the workshop here.
I was there last time. I kind of sensed that they were very old school, that they're very stuck to one thing, and that's the reason why that next level progress isn't coming hard enough.
Yeah, that was very insightful. For us when we read it, it's like you were pointing out things that were obvious, and yet there is, like you said, there does seem to be a lacking resistance to change or just even to new ideas, right?
Right.
It's weird that you notice that and you need to call it out because the lack of self-awareness sometimes is so horrid.
I think nobody really is calling that fact out, so it's something that had to be said.
Actually, I've been wanting to write the letter for some time, right? That's why my introduction was that this is not an impulse writing. I actually gave a lot of thought into it because I wanted to write something that would not cause any hard feelings to our fellow kababayan trainers, and still have a constructive criticism that people can kind of feed off from.
But I think you achieved that, JR, because it was very respectful, and yet it was something that needed to be said, I think.
Yeah.
But what's crazy and sad is that the first 3 people that I have on the program now has no Filipinos in it.
Wow, that is sad, man.
Yeah.
Two people from Bangladesh and 1 from Malaysia.
How are they doing? In terms of just,
No, they're working. Like I said, they're working hard, but they just can't get themselves out there. That's the problem. Like I said, I mean, one of the biggest things that I pointed out in my open letter was that everybody's thing is that everybody's reason, everybody's go-to whining reason is that, I work hard. Unfortunately, working hard, it's good. It's a positive thing, but it's not a privilege anymore to go to the next level. Like I said, hey, you know what? That fisherman on the bay is doing this thing every single day, hauling off thousands of fish. But do you see him getting famous?
Yeah.
No, he's 10 times hardworking as you, but you have an opportunity to actually make something out of yourself just by exposing yourselves a little bit more. But
that's so true. The hard work should be basic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, if you want to get somewhere in life, you're gonna have to do hard work anyway. So it's not oh my God, I'm hard working, so I should be privileged. I should be rewarded with something. Don't work like that no more, unfortunately. So it's a matter of breaking ground and really what do you call it? Setting something that will put your head on top of that flood of people that's out there right now that's doing the same thing. But actually, that part right there, me teaching people how to market themselves, is not the hard part. The hardest part is to get people to realize that, look, you cannot be fucking contented of where you are right now, knowing that there's more things you can do with what you're doing already anyway. I'm not asking you to be no fucking civil engineer or a pilot and change your career. No, stay with your career. But is it that bad if you actually have like 10,000 baht more, 10,000 pesos more at the end of the day in your pocket just because you did a little bit of something to separate you from the rest? No. But it just so happened that what I wrote in that letter is so true. Like, yo, instead of thinking of what the next move is, they're thinking about the next fucking price they're gonna get off the game that they're playing, or the next meme that they're gonna scroll. And you know, like, man, shit. I hate to say this, but I will, because I think people need to wake up. Like, this is the new generation of fucking whatchamacallit? What's that fable? Juan Tamad.
Yeah.
One tamad, yeah.
That's a classic representation of what's happening right now. You know, he just there. What was that? He was lying down on a tree, waiting for that fruit to fall. Right? That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah,
They're just in front of the thing is, they don't see a cell phone as a smartphone as a fucking resource. They think of it as an entertainment, as a pastime tool. But when you see things in a different perspective, like, I'm gonna do this right now because my wife's like father, my father-in-law, is one of the best businessmen I've ever seen in my life. He doesn't know anything about engineering, but yet he used to own an engineering company that rakes him a 1.5 mil every month.
Wow.
A guy,
like a really smart guy.
About engineering, has an engineering business, has one staff, and earns a million a month.
Wow.
That's even more amazing.
Right. But because, you know, this is the reason why I am what I am now is partly because of him. He said, JR, let me give you an advice. Whenever you're writing, whenever you're out in the streets, whenever you're driving or whatever, I will give you a mental exercise that you'll soon in the future, you'll thank me for. He said, take any object off anywhere. It could be a banana peel. It could be a fucking used diaper or whatever the case may be. You don't have to do it in reality, but do a mental exercise. Okay, I have a product. It's a used diaper. How do I make it new, make it better? How do I advertise it, market it, and how do I sell it, and how do I make income out of it? So from that time on, I would do this mental exercise in my head, like, oh, there's a piece of paper. Okay, what can I do with it? You know, blah, 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 blah. Until I reached the point, I would actually break it down in my head and even write it on my phone until I reached the point where I'm like, oh, shit, that's a 50 baht income. But it doesn't have to be reality, but it's just the whole mental exercise of it. So now...
It's a change of perspective, right?
Say what?
It's a change of perspective.
Yeah. But that's the problem with a lot of people nowadays. Like, they don't have the ability to see things the other way. Like, they only see things in a very say in a single perspective. I was simply saying that, you know, like, if you look at things regardless of what it is in such a single dimensional manner, then you can never really, you know, milk what, you know, the best parts of it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's basically not just working hard, but you really have to work smart.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Working smart should be as equivalent as working hard.
Yeah.
I always say, right? They always say, repetition is key, or practice is key to everything that will make you better. I refuse to make that as a real. I mean, I don't necessarily agree to that saying 100%, because we can make that sentence a little bit better. If you repeat the same wrong thing, regardless of how many times you do it, you will end up with the wrong thing. Correct?
Yeah.
Say, for example, I'm boxing, I'm shadow boxing, and, you know, I'm practicing every single day, but nobody has ever taught me to put my hands up properly. So no matter how much practice I have in my life, I will always end up doing the same old mistake.
It's training wrong.
Yeah, it's training wrong. I said it's not about practice or repetition. It's progressive practice. It's progressive repetition. It's fixing the smallest details, returning to it, fixing it, trying it out, fix it again, go back to it, apply it, and all these things.
Perfecting the basics, pretty much.
For both of you, right? You're both in the martial arts, industry and whatnot. And to all the listeners out there, coaches, athletes, read the book called Talent Code.
Oh, the Talent Code, yeah.
That is my Bible. Whatever mindset I have now, as far as like success, everyday things, anticipating the future and whatnot, understanding how things work, I got it all from there. The book called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle.
There you go.
From the beginning, from the very first chapter of that book, if you don't learn anything, you're not trying hard enough. It's, I don't know, man. Like that, I've read. I'm a bookworm, but that book changed my perspective in everything that I do. And I advise you guys, both of you, our listeners, to grab a copy of that. And we're still in quarantine anyways. So yeah, man. I mean, people need to have a different perspective in what they do so they can move to the next level.
It's really interesting because in your letter you're almost giving away your secrets for free. How do you grew your gym? How you got your new coaches? How you trained your fighters? Like it was almost all there, and they just needed to pick it up. Like there's so much love and heartfelt like generosity in it.
Right. Well, I mean, that was the whole objective of the letter in the first place, because in the past 12 years that I've been a coach, I've met a lot of like boxers who's come out here and whatnot. Yeah, they know them in the Philippines and stuff, but I'm like, no, I know you can do better, but it's just I don't know what goes on in their head.
That's true.
That's like they said, right? You can have 50 people trying to get you off the couch to get to work out, but if you decide not to do it, it's not going to happen.
Nothing will happen.
Nothing's going to happen. It starts with you. It ends with you.
Yeah.
This is such an interesting discussion, mostly because we are mostly an MMA podcast, but obviously boxing is the big thing in the Philippines.
It's the biggest thing in the Philippines.
The teachers who are the coaches who are instructing in boxing don't get much glory or much income.
I mean, they're pretty much treated like just some other guy in the gym.
Yeah, that really sucks, man. Like, I have changed. I'm not trying to carry my own venture or anything, but one of the things I said in that letter was the thing that I always ask everybody during my business seminars. I said, in Thailand right now, there's a lot of like new trainers and whatnot. And I said, look, don't be okay. There's a couple of no-nos as being a first-time trainer. You can be presentable by what you wear, but don't look like a fucking clown too. Like, don't wear all neon green with a headband on. You know what I'm saying? With some Dennis Rodman Oakleys and shit, and and expect to like reel in some real clients. Because that's just surface shit, you know what I'm saying? And if you ain't got the skills to back it up, then you're the reason for your own downfall. But it's like I said, it starts from you. It's not even about the gym. When it was with me, like I made sure that I connected with my clients in a sense that they will remember me, not just because of the tattoos or whatever the case may be, but like I said, you don't ever. I mean, the two of you guys, right? Let's put you guys on the check over here, right?
Sure.
You guys, like, you interviewed somebody, right? And this other guy spoke to somebody like, hey, this and that podcast, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I was in the podcast the other day. Oh yeah, with who? What channel? Oh, some Filipino dudes, man. Can't even remember the name. Something Manila.
Yeah.
Dude, that is the last thing you want as far as being talked about for what you're what you're doing as far as what your passion is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you need to codify what you're about, the values you have, and impart it in a, what do you call it? A feeling. What is the feeling that you want them to get? Because people make decisions and remember you for the emotions that,
Exactly.
that you give them.
But without having to, you still got to draw that line where you don't necessarily throw yourselves like
Yeah.
a like looking like a fool.
Yeah, don't
You
like
gotta
the
stay
not
out of
pushing
that.
it too much, right?
Yeah, you got to keep your values and
Mhm.
it's like, look, a relationship is as any other relationship that is out there.
Mm.
You always have to leave something for the other party to wonder about,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Needs to
right?
be a halfway kind of
Yeah, you
connection.
don't put all out and say, "Oh, and if you." What's funny is between client and trainer, there's always this like kind of reminiscent feel of doing it as if you're actually courting somebody. You shouldn't be
That's true.
shouldn't
That
be
is true.
coming out with all your information. You got to leave them with some things to think about you, and you should never ever talk about yourself all the time.
That's a good dynamic.
Yeah.
Like that's a good metaphor for the dynamic.
Because that's how it's supposed to be. Like if I was your trainer, I'm like, oh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, I'm two-time WBC champion, blah blah blah. You're like, yeah, whatever, man. Okay, cool.
Too much, man. Too much too
Yeah.
soon.
But
Yeah,
if I
like
say like, oh, I know a pretty substantial amount that I can pass on to you, and then we can work it progressively, this and that, I'd be like, okay, I can ride with that,
Mhm.
B level gyms, you can really tell that the trainer is not putting his heart into your pets.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you won't come back because you remember that feeling of, oh, he's just passing the time. He's not even into it. Like, how can I get fit with
yeah.
this stuff like that?
Right. Well, look, I mean, that's Thailand and Philippines alike, man. Like the
Mhm.
Muay Thai, you get all these like former Lumpini champions holding pads, and at the end of the day, they're just drunk because they're trying to let the whole thing pass. Like they've lost that fire in teaching and
Mhm.
in part. I mean, there's still a lot of like out there. I mean, trainers out there who's very passionate about what they do, but literally 80% of the Muay Thai
Mhm.
coaches here now are like, okay, 4 rounds next, 4 rounds next, because they
Yeah.
live off that same system that if you don't, they live off the number system. So the more
Yeah, the
people they
volume, right,
train,
of
the
the
Mhm.
more
time.
the more they get money. But
Right,
them,
right.
like it's just another day of hitting pads or trading people. But you see, that's where I'm trying to like. That's one of the same reasons why I actually started my workshops,
Mhm.
my business seminars for trainers or whatnot, because I always feel like, look, you don't need to take another 4-year course just for you to be known. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, some other trainers already like speak for themselves as far as what they do is concerned. Like Trainer Gay, I mean, I'm sure you guys have, who Trainer Gay is. Like he's this like,
Trainer
yeah,
Gay, yeah,
very famous. He doesn't know much
very
about social
famous.
media, but
Has his own app.
yeah, I mean, he's gangster. You know what I'm saying? He's a hardcore trainer. But you see, with him, he doesn't need to do it himself because there's always a lot of people that's like looking after, like, hey, when can we get an interview with you? When can we shoot you? And then he's always in different platforms. So with him, it's okay. But at the end of the day, you know what? I'm gonna quote Michael Jordan himself from what he said in The Last Dance. He
Yeah.
said, "I never went after my sponsorships like Gatorade, Nike, McDonald's, and all the other stuff. My basketball, my game spoke for itself. I did so well at it that these people just want to come and ride with me."
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's never really about like that's why I was always confused sometimes. Like, there's some new trainers or new athletes, like 1-2 fights, and they're like, oh, can I get a sponsorship? This and that. I'm like, huh? What have you actually proven?
Yeah.
And what's sad now too is that most companies, like, they don't even care how good you are in your art anymore. The first question is how many followers you got.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's not even
That kind
about
of
the
coaching
records anymore.
Yeah, you
You have
sold.
to be marketable. So, like it's one of the things that I've always like taught the people around me. I said, look, have you got to know the difference between you got to draw the line between, hey, look, I'm a trainer and I'm happy with where I am, or actually saying like, look, I want to go somewhere with what I'm doing, and then the third part is crossing that line where I'm like, look, I can talk, I can look good, but I don't know shit. So you separate those three classes, or I mean classifications of trainers, and yeah, man, like it's bad because you have all these young trainers now who just because they have a little bit of six pack, or I mean in boxing, or they look good, they got a little bit fairer skin, and they got all these Nike gear with them and shit, and they can like charge like 1,500 baht for an hour, more than somebody who's actually had fucking real experience in boxing.
Sure, basically paying for the image of the trainer.
Right. But then we can't also deny that image plays a part of it. One of my trainers, right? There's only like 4 of us, well, 5 of us in total. I have this one guy, his name is Fun, right? And he's a martial arts, he does Kali and all these things. He does shooting. And with all those skills, okay, whoever's listening out there, I want you to try to take heed in this advice too, because this is something that I don't usually tell people, right? So he comes up to me and he said, "Look, coach, I'm doing my thing, but I have less than like 3 clients now. Blah 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 blah." I was like, I've been wanting to become ever since I've seen you guys, I want to become a part of the Lions Head family. So I'm like, okay. And this guy, what he does is that he spends so much money for his education, like. He would, do like seminars, workshops. What was the other thing? The certifications. He has plenty of certifications from different things, right? But why is he not having like clients? But because he doesn't know how to present himself just yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was at Elorda for the camp, right? There's this one dude that stuck out really well. Older gentleman. He was wearing jeans, but he wasn't training, right? But I called him in front because I was talking a little bit about the image thing, right? I said, look at, Tito over here, right? I said, he might not be wearing like, sports brand and stuff like that. But I respect him because he's got that old school thing. Like, no matter where I go, I'm going to make sure that I smell good. I have my hair brushed up nicely. My pants is not wrinkled. And he just has that persona that like, okay, I can be easy with you because, you make me easy with the way you present yourself.
That is true. Like going back to that thing you said about you need to be like in a courtship relationship with your client at first.
Yeah. You're not going to go, I mean, what you're going to do the first time you meet a client, you've never met, you fucking, like, you just walk out of bed, your breath stinks, like your beard all fucked
Probably
up,
not coming back. That's my coach.
Yeah, you're not even trying anymore.
Yeah, you gave up.
Yeah, you're like a married couple that just got bored of dressing up. You know what I'm saying? Of looking good because you're married. One of the other things I say in my business seminar is that you got to understand what I call, if you think about it, Japanese food is merely what? We're talking fish, mostly fish, rice, and a little bit of sauce, correct?
Yeah, correct.
The same thing on the plate, like mixed up, and somebody be like, what the fuck is this? But you arrange it in a bento set, looking like the way the Japanese people would do it. And it's the most enticing thing ever. Correct?
That changes the game.
Yeah. That's an art.
Yeah. So it's really as simple as that. You just got to pick what works for you as far as your presentation is concerned.
That is true. And like part of it is really the image and the presentation. There's no getting around it, right?
Anybody who tells you that nowadays, especially in the world we live in 2020, the image isn't important is lying.
Exactly.
Don't have that anymore. Fine, you got skills, but if you can't have that, you cannot sell your image too, then it's for nothing.
It's such a hard lesson to take nowadays, especially when industries like fitness, martial arts, like all of that just
right
is in such a state of like flux, and not even flux, just stagnation.
No,
One grappling coach who took me aside and told me like, I asked him, how do you keep the passion for your classes going? Because he always seems upbeat and jolly and like
right.
enthusiastic. And he said he had this mantra like, best teach, I'm enthusiastic and patient and kind. I want them to come back, something like that.
See, that right there is simple things that can be done to achieve your daily success. But it sucks that there's people who still sees that as a hard thing to do. It's fucking.
I don't. You guys are in a service industry, basically, right?
It is considered a service industry. My thing in correlation to what you said, how I wake up is this: everybody is a product. I don't want no fucking other gym or they get caught on social media and they saying, where the fuck did this dude train? My product is my representation.
Yeah.
So the moment you can't train with me anymore because you moved houses or whatnot, and the first time you hit the pads or do shadow boxing, they're like, have you trained somewhere else before? Yeah, I was from Lion's Head. And they'd be like, oh, no wonder why.
Thank you so much for listening. That was part 2 of our 2-part episode with Coach Jerry Crisologo of Lion's Head Boxing Academy, Bangkok. As a bonus, here's an 11-minute outtake of our conversation with him, where we talked about summer training in Thailand, weight cutting, and a lot more.
I have to say that this is the first summer that I was quite thankful that I didn't have to work because being in the gym, even at 4 in the afternoon, is hell, like literally. And it's one thing that you're trading, like, like just clients that, after work clients and this and that. But if you're running fight camps back to back in a 42-degree weather with humidity, that's a different story.
You're going to die, bro.
Oh, yeah. Bro, let me tell you a funny story, right? In the first year we opened the gym, I was trying to hustle. We was trying to hustle so we can get that investment back, right? So I was working from 8 in the morning until 12. I take my break for an hour, and I started again at 1:30. And I did that all the way to the summertime, and I literally passed out like halfway on the ring as I was coming down the stairs. Yeah, it was like, okay, after that day, I was like, no, we're going to have to like spend at least 4-hour break time and come back at 4, and so I don't die. So I can keep on like training.
Exactly.
Is that where they're at least good for people who are like cutting weight, the fighters who are cutting weight?
Yeah, well, I mean, bro, if we're talking about ties, I try not to have my fighters do that, but ties are crazy. Like in 2012, before the London Olympics, I got a contract from the national team, boxing national team head coach Omar, which is the Cuban guy, and he's like, I see you're good in the pads or whatnot, so why don't you come help out with the team? So I was like, yeah, it'd be great, man. It's great for my resume, great for my experience and background. So he's like, all right, so we usually train at 2, in the afternoon. And this was like around March. So it was blazing already, right? So I was like, 2? He's like, yeah.
Crazy shit, man.
I had that question mark at the end, 2. It wasn't like an agreeing to, it was more like a really 2? And then out of nowhere, I was like, oh, okay, so you tell me that before 2, all the athletes just kind of like take a nap and whatnot? Oh, no. They run like before 2. They run from 12 to about 1 in a sauna suit. So I drove in the stadium.
Oh, my God.
Bro, I swear to God, he wasn't kidding. So I pop in the stadium to get something to eat. I was driving, and I caught these guys with a full-on sauna suit and a hat midday when the sun has lost its mind. Like the sun is staring at you from the top and like, look, one of you gonna die today.
Yeah, definitely.
It was kind of like that kind of scene, right? But I don't know, man. Weight cutting in Thailand, I mean, especially for the Muay Thai fighters, is crazy.
It's crazy. Like, are the statistics of like the Nak Muay who die from weight cutting, just jogging in their sauna? I would like to get that statistic, man.
Well, honestly, like over the past, okay, let me compare it to you like this, right? If the deaths of the boxers in the Philippines are more from what we call the marathon fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting like 3 times a week and all these kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the comparison of the numbers that we have here for Muay Thai fighters who passed away from weight cutting.
Fuck.
Damn.
Yeah. And this is coming from I'm telling you from what? I'm running my 13th year now as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just from 13 years of experience. But obviously, before that, there's been more people. So, which is why I think one did a very, very good job in what they do as far as like their weight cutting now. You got
the hydration test
and the weight, the weigh-ins at the same time on the same day. I thought that was good because a lot of people followed suit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, for the more modern promotions, the old school ones, nah, man, they don't eat. They don't.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to gain weight, coach. I can't eat anything, but you're gonna die. Like, okay,
bro. I remember training at a small gym in Phuket. This was a long time ago, Muay Thai, right? And my trainer, this was after 4 rounds. So I was like, 4 rounds, okay. I do my thing. After the 4th round, I decided to go for a drink.
Mm-hmm.
He literally slapped me with the fucking with the pad in the back of my head. He's like, "What are you doing drinking?"
No drink.
No water. I look at him like, "Are you crazy?" Like, no, that's not how we do things. You have to lose weight. You have to not drink water. I was like, okay, then. I'm not trying to make weight anytime soon.
It's based on some mystic ancient science.
Yeah, man. Like, no, seriously. I've met a couple of trainers, like straight up, like fucking OG trainers, right? That that still believes in the what we call Muay Boran. Boran is
Boran,
right?
Traditional one.
Yeah. So they still believe in that ancient like spirits and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but the spirit inside me's thirsty, bro.
The spirit is not willing to die.
Yeah, but that's the crazy statistics that I mentioned earlier. Wow. So it's still there. Weight cutting is still there, as same as for a lot of other
But you think the hydration testing thing is gonna be good for, say, professional boxing? Because in the past year, I mean, there was a thing that happened where 2 pro boxers died in a week, right? Because
I think one was the Australian cat who got a body shot from sparring, right? Yeah. And I think his liver popped or some shit like that.
Are you kidding me? His liver popped.
Yeah, he took on a liver shot and it just burst, and he had an internal hemorrhage or something like that. And then there was another guy a week after that, within the same week, that passed away too.
Yeah, the Russian dude, I think.
The Russian guy, exactly.
Russian guy, yeah.
Oh man. Well, honestly, right? If you ask me, I would literally love to see that same day weigh-in and hydration test in professional boxing.
Is it better, you think?
Well, it's better
in properly
of keeping the athletes healthy as possible with that disciplined mindset.
Yeah,
because,
for sure.
For the longest time, right? Not a lot of people agree with me on this, but if we're talking, my thing is always prolonged careers.
Of course.
Like in any like combat sport, I mean, if you're looking to get high level, you want to prolong that career as much as possible. So you have to do all these little, like important things that a lot of people just like, oh, it's okay, we can just lose that extra 3 kilos like a day before, sauna this, sauna that. And I'm like, look, if you're doing okay with that, I mean, with your health and everything, fine, but not everybody's built the same way.
Right.
That's true. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly. So you can't be like, oh, it's uniform thing that all of you got to like cut, 6 kilos, blah, 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 whatever the case may be, a couple of days before the fight. Like say, for example, right, with my fighters, I have a very, very strict rule that on their off season, they're only allowed to gain 4 kilos tops. I don't let any of my, especially when you're around, when you're less than 25 years old, you have no reason to blow up in between fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're just coming up. You're a come up.
Yeah.
right? So that
Your
already.
metabolism should still be able to take it.
Say what? Say that again.
Your metabolism should
Oh
still be
yeah.
able to take it, right?
And plus, I mean, if you ask me, right, I don't know if this is being modern or just being, or just bringing some sense into the whole thing. Like, if you're 25 years old, you should be disciplined enough not to blow up in between your fights.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, unless you're partying like Roberto Duran and fighting all that, which is why Sugar Ray took advantage of the whole thing. But it's a form. It's part of the disciplinarian like a process of being a fighter, of being a young fighter. But at the end of the day, like a lot of people, like say for example, right, I know a lot of people who wants to stay strong. Like they want to be 2 kilos, 2.5 kilos up until they reach the peak of sparring, and then they just lose it. But they're so used to it that it's nothing to them, right? But do you guys remember? I know for a fact you remember this one. Mm-hmm. The very, very big issue with that Japanese guy won.
Which the guy died?
Yeah. So that was a wake up moment for everybody because he literally had to be carried on the scale. I mean, to anybody who has a little bit of of combat experience or being a coach or whatever, that was like, did you just carry your man onto the scale?
Yeah.
Because he can't even lift his
that dude cannot fight tomorrow.
Right. Like you said, man, it's not a one size fit all type of thing. Like people got to know their body more. Like a lot of kids nowadays, especially the young ones, they enjoy the whole weight cutting process and they do it to the point that they're like fucking skin and bones, right? Uh-huh. So I'm like, there is a scientific approach to it. If you master
the spirits, JR, the spirits.
Oh, the spirits, yeah. Man. Oh yeah, the spirits are gonna take care of us. But I'm like, there's always a scientific, way into doing this. And one of the best weight cutters of all time that I know of scientifically is Nonito Donaire.
Yeah. He knows how to control his body.
Man, this guy is 100% he knows his body. He knows every single day, what's happening with him. If he's cramping, this, that, and the third, the whole 9 yards, he got it on lock. So weight cutting, and you never see him fade, with his powers, even after weight cutting. So it's it's definitely a scientific thing, but not many people would take the time to do that.